I'd like to welcome you back to Hard Copy, coming to you from our studios in Abuja. My guests are the national chairman and presidential candidate of their political parties, Yusuf Sani Yabagi of the ADP and Tokwe Fashwa of the ANRP. And we're looking at the chances of the new and smaller political parties in the 2019 general elections. And before we went on that break, you were going to disagree with Mr. Sani on his stand on oil and gas. I'll just let you do that.
He's actually disagreeing to agree, actually, because I think we're kind of on the same page. But I wanted to actually break down the issue of the oil and gas sector. That is actually an overrated industry in Nigeria. I actually sat down and started to do the math. 1 barrel of crude oil sells for maybe about 25,000. At $80, at 305 naira to the dollar, that's about 24,400. So we're lucky it's at $80. If it was at $30 or $40, we are making about 12,000 naira for 1 barrel of crude. That means 12,000 before removing the cost. And then I did my research and found out from Naiti that between 2015 and 2017, this country got $104 billion of crude oil from crude oil. However, only 38 billion was due to Nigeria. That only 36% of the proceeds of that industry is what we get. Now, so we got, in 3 years, we got about $38 billion. But do you know what? The shocking thing is that we spent about $30 billion within the same period importing refined. So what that means is that, I'm just saying that we need to, and these are the kind of things, we need to mainstream this. Because when you look at it and you say, look, who gets what? Can we afford the kind of profligacy we see in our society today, especially in government?
In this half,
all the things that they think they can afford.
In this half
really
of the program, we have limited time. So let's just go straight to the political aspect of things. We're talking about coalition before we went on that break. And you were part, the ADP was part of the Coalition of United Political Parties, UPP. What happened to that coalition?
Well, we were there in the discussions, when the discussion started. But we pulled out because we discovered that CUPP you want to talk about. This is the CUPP. That's the one that we're in. Okay. But we pulled out of CUPP because we saw that it wasn't anything that Nigerians, will accept. You are again trying to reinvent, PDP, and then trying to recruit people to now come and give a new face to PDP. And we didn't want to be part of that, so that's why we pulled out. So we are standing on our own. But like my colleague here said, is that going forward, you might. Is a situation that you will the country will find necessary, to now come together as political parties and say, how do we form the next government? It cannot be like what you had in 2015, where it was only PDP and then APC.
Are you open? Are you open to a coalition?
No, we're open to, of course. You can't,
Mr. Fashwa, are you open?
Absolutely.
There's no dominance
coalition
anymore. It's collaboration and things like that.
At some point, we were actually having a brief discussion with YPP.
You were supposed to be part of the pact. Presidential aspirants coming together.
We started it together.
What happened?
Oh, well, because the guys rushed it. Ordinarily, I don't like speaking about it that much anymore. It's like I'm kind of.
But insinuations were that you were afraid you would lose.
No, but the point was that when they started, we were too few, and I told them what we should do. Number one, expand this group. I knew that there were like 70, 80 people trying to vie for presidency. You have to reach all of them. If 11 or 12 or 13 of you gather in a place and you say you're choosing the person that will represent everybody, I mean, it's an exercise in futility. So they rushed it. Within 1 month, they were bringing out the name. And I told them, guys, on what basis are we presenting someone? Can we have open debates? Do you know what? A lot of young so-called candidates or aspirants are afraid of open debate. And so what are we selling to the Nigerians? Apart from, look, I'm young, I look cool, I can speak well. And what are we selling? What are your programs? And because they deprived Nigeria of talking about those programs, I disagreed with them. And they said, listen, if you know you can't do this, exit. And I exited. Before they now went ahead and did what I exited about 2-3 weeks before they did what they did.
One of the things you said was that in one of your interviews with the print media, you said that you would be glad to have, you would prefer to pact, to see the names of the likes of Omoyele Sowore, Kingsley Moghalu, Fela Durotoye, yourself, and a few others on the ballot paper.
Absolutely.
That's what you said. But some people will say that you showed that you don't understand what politics is, because politics is narrowing down your opponent as much as possible. So
Nigeria does not need politics now. I wish Nigerians knew what we need. We don't need politicians. Politicians are, the typical politicians, the guys that will come and promise you all sorts of things. We need people who will do stuff, right? We need non-politicians. As a matter of fact, that was what we thought we had when Buhari came in 2015. Nigerians don't need politics now. We need to solve a problem. This economy is dying, dead, right? This economy is surviving on debt.
Due to the limited time we have, let's go into serious matters with regard to the 2010 Electoral Act Amendment Bill that the National Assembly is working on, or just passed. What do you expect from that amendment that will favor new and smaller political parties?
Okay.
Mr. Yabagi.
Yeah, for me, I was expecting that the order of election, would be changed.
What order were you expecting?
I was expecting a situation where you allow, smaller parties to at least be able to win, from the beginning. That is, you start with the House of Assembly, governorship, and then you go to the National Assembly, and then the president. The president should come last.
How would that favor smaller?
No, it will, because you see, one thing that you must. There are certain fundamentals in this country, in our political arrangement, certain dichotomies. Like now, you have North and South, you have religion. For recent, you have also the military. That has been with us for quite some time. So these are things that affect the way our politics is run. And if you allow the presidential to come first, once somebody emerges as the winner, it's like all the other authorities, all the paraphernalia.
So it trickles down. That's what you mean.
No, it trickles down, and then the man will use that position as the president to now load it over others, and then I think card reader is good. Card reader that I've introduced is good. That the National Assembly has given.
But the National Assembly did its part by making that reordering, election reordering, but the president declined that. Let me allow Mr. Fashua speak, because we're almost out of time now. Where do you stand on this?
Absolutely bang on, right? 91 parties contesting for 6,000 positions. You're probably going to see, I'm an economic statistician, you're probably going to see a lot more dispersal in terms of who wins what. Maybe a small party that's coming to get 1 or 2 seats here and that. If the president had been a magnanimous human being, simpliciter, if he had been a magnanimous human being, he would have taken his own election last and allowed this country to breathe. But by going first, he thinks he wants to secure his position. And the moment if he secures his position, for example, you will see that everything that will happen else in this country will be APC. In fact, if it was possible, people who are contesting on PDP will find a way of jumping into APC to contest, because they know that this is the man that's going to be doling out the money to them. And we can't continue like this. So a 91 parties contesting for positions in the different houses of assembly, there's going to be a chance that people are going to because eventually they will say, yeah, there are many parties. This country, 91 parties is not the highest you can have. In other countries of the world, even developed countries, there are many parties. All right, so if INEC wants to sit down and say, okay, come, we're going to have, like you have in banking now, a regional bank, a state bank, whatever kind of bank. If you want to do that to the political parties, so be it. But people must be able to express themselves. Now, the other thing about the electoral law is that now I think they have now put a limit that they should have put on the monies that people need to pay. And I think the limits on the presidency, they could have done that earlier. Look at what happened in APC, 45 million naira. You have to be a criminal to find that kind of money. And there's a law that says that anybody cannot donate more than 1 million to a person in political. They breached that law, as a matter of fact. So 45 million for presidency, 22 million for state governors. I mean, it was obvious.
That law has been, there's an amendment to that. It's about 10 billion now.
It's about 10 million now. But you see, that's what I'm saying. They ought to have done this before. They stalled it. They stalled it and were able to push people out. A lot of my friends, young people who went and got not too young to run. I've been telling them perhaps you should have gone to not too young to have money in your pocket, not too young to find a job. Before you can see what they did after getting the not too young to run, they brought that kind of law and pushed everybody out. And of course, the Nigerians that should have come to parties like ours, where we give you for 100,000, 200,000, they wanted to go mainstream. And they got the result. Sorry about that.
It's fine. It's fine. Thank you both for finding time to come speak with us today. Well, that's it on Hard Copy. I'd like to say thank you very much for watching and remind you that you can watch the entire interview on our webpage, and that's channelstv.com. And feel free to send us your feedback via our email or social media. They are displayed on the screen. Thanks so much for watching once again. I'm Terry Ikumi. Good night.